Hey guys, this is my latest review of Tales from the Loop, the Amazon anthology series. So this is the third episode of the first season and it is called Stasis. And this one links nicely together with episode 2 actually, because we see the return of May, the character who we saw briefly in the last episode, who Jacob had a crush on and who he started seeing at the end of the episode, or at least a bit confusing, but Jacob with, it was Jacob's body anyway, with his friend Danny inside it, or so I think we're meant to believe. So it actually connects quite nicely, and that's something they've done where all three episodes have actually had some sort of a link, not just because of the loop, but because of like character links as well. So I'm actually enjoying that continuity, and it's sort of built and has a thematic link as well in some of the things it's exploring. So once again, full spoilers. So May returned, played by Nicole Law, and the kind of thing this episode is exploring is that May is kind of wondering about the relationship with Jacob and about relationships in general and about life in general. Can you capture moments, I guess, in a bottle almost? Can you make just great moments, great relationships just sort of last forever? She's kind of having like these existential type of questions. So she's feeling quite melancholic, quite sort of down about the fact that I think very few relationships last. And I think one thing you have to take on board with this episode is then I think we're meant to assume then it's been a while now since May and Jacob started going out, so the relationship has kind of soured a little bit from May's point of view anyway. She seems to, I think, view Jacob in a different sort of light. But she's kind of having these broad sort of questions about relationships and about life in general, and I think just that typical sense of like lost and like sort of isolation, but also like helplessness in a way of not really being able to control these things. So I think one way it links quite nicely to the other episode so far is you have this typical like sort of small town and these young characters being quite restricted, feeling quite isolated and quite constrained within the town. So that was definitely a theme of the last episode. So I think that plays into like May's anxiety in this sort of episode. The fact that she feels life in this town is very restricted, very limited in its possibilities. Although she's obviously asking the broader questions about relationships. So she discovers this device that washes up like in the lake, and she like fishes it out of the water, and she's interested in it. She decides to explore it and start working on it. And in the same scene as she finds the device washed up, she also sees this other character, Ethan, who goes to the same school. I think we might have briefly seen him in the last episode as well. And for a while I wondered if he was an actual like real person or if he was just like in her head sort of thing, because we see him at the lake watching her, and then later on there's a scene where May and her parents have gone, they're in like a bar with Jacob, and she's like really feeling isolated and sort of kind of moody, and at one point, like, I think it's Jacob or something appears to be getting drunk, so he kind of spills like beer, and she goes to the bar and Ethan is there, and he's like there with like a cloth sort of thing. So it's almost like this idealized sort of person has come into her life, and coincidentally, they both have the same sort of ambition. They both wish then you could like capture time, you could capture perfect moments, and you could make them last sort of thing. They both have that kind of idealized sort of ambition, if you like. And we see this in various ways. We see this with May and like this record she keeps playing over again. So there's something like really beautiful and nostalgic about that. The way pop music does capture the imagination, and the way people have favourite records that they just play over and over again. And that's a good sort of metaphor, because it is kind of like being caught, you know, when it's just you on your own listening to the record in particular. It is kind of like being caught up in like a dreamlike sort of like haze. It's just you and the record. It's sort of very intimate, and yeah, and then when you play it on a loop, it does feel like kind of, yeah, you're very in the moment. But anyway, yeah, May starts kind of slowly forming a relationship with Ethan, because as I said, they both wish for the same, and it seems like the relationship with Jacob is getting sour as far as May is concerned. And what happens is she with this device she fishes out of the lake, she like fixes it so that her wish can come true, so that her and Ethan's wish can come true. And they get to a point where they want to be together, but there's obviously the problem of Jacob and other stuff. And May says, well, I think I've found a way for us to be together, and that is for us to stop time. I know how to stop time. And so she uses the device to do that, but at the same time her and Ethan wear like these like bracelets, which mean they're like immune, that they can carry on as the rest of the town stops. So that's the premise basically, and that's kind of, they explore that in the middle of the episode. So I think this is another like really solid, interesting episode. I'm not sure I quite liked it as much as the second one, just because maybe, first of all, I think you kind of have to take it on grace. Then this is like at least a few months into the relationship with May and Jacob, and she's like kind of getting bored, and he's not quite what she thought he was. I think it's quite interesting because, of course, he sort of charmed her with that picture, and maybe that's a sign then, you know, this maybe isn't like the perfect relationship. But there's that. I think that's sort of a question mark, because I think because it just starts the episode and she's kind of in this like headspace where she's kind of bored of this guy. I feel that kind of feels a little bit forced, but I think you sort of have to take it on grace. Then they've been together a while now, and that things have grown sort of stale for her. But I think without that knowledge, or without assuming that, then maybe makes her look a bit shallow, but obviously it's, for the plot and to explore this like theme, you sort of need to just take that into account, I think. Um, I think I think the other thing is the way things escalate a bit in the back half of the episode. Um, and yeah, I think May at times is written a bit inconsistently. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think there's just question marks there. I think maybe she could have come off as a bit less shallow. I think she's written a little bit like that, but I guess that sort of serves the purpose of the story and what it's exploring. But they do explore it very well when they actually get into when they freeze time, and there's a great sense of wonder and the isolation of the town. It's like this very dreamlike sort of thing with the whole town stopped, and it really captures this what if type thing. So that the fact that these two like young people feel like stranded in this dead end town. So it's just like this opportunity to almost live a dream sort of like life, even for a small amount of time, because they agree eventually they have to put everything back. So just the scenes of them like letting loose in this town, this sense of wonder, this sense of magic. They do various things. They're sort of playing. They like serve themselves in a bar when obviously everyone else is frozen. They kind of get, well, they sort of have sex. I'm not sure if they did it all the way, but they start falling around in the middle of the street. And it's just that sort of sense of yeah, there's no rules in this sort of set up universe type thing. And then just playing with certain things, like at one point May gets like a helmet off a woman who's like on a bike kind of thing, and she just puts it on like this other guy who's I think it's like, yeah, just puts it on a guy in a vehicle or something like that, or a guy who's like standing up. So yeah, you definitely get swept along in those kind of moments, and it does get quite deep into like again the limitations along with the possibilities. So it's basically a month they spend like this. Um, but again, it does show like the limitations. It shows um, the fact then ultimately life gets a bit boring when there's nothing else, when there's no one around town doing anything else, when they're not, where it is literally just them all the time, and no interactions with anyone else. Because it's kind of strange, because at one point May is like, she seems to go off Ethan a bit, but then at the same time, I think she just gets a bit sensitive because it's him who actually suggests first, we should sort of put this back. And ultimately, it's kind of Ethan who, in May's like mind, sort of breaks his promise, because they sort of try and come up with this deal where they can still be together once in a while, even after they put things back. Although that was a bit confusing, because it seemed, as I said, it seemed to be May who was like going off the idea of them being together in the first place. It seemed like she got bored very kind of quickly. So I think they seem to be suggesting maybe it was just she was just that sort of character. And actually, one of like the really sort of cool scenes, which is really painful, is that when, because obviously with the town still frozen and the device like malfunctions when May tries to reverse it, and this is when things get really dramatic and kind of freaky, and this is when like the sort of arguments start developing between the two. But at one point May actually like finds her mother in bed with another guy, and it is kind of freaky because that's what they were doing when time froze, that they were actually having sex. So May has to look at her mother on top of like this other guy just frozen. So it's this really kind of dark, sinister, kind of creepy sort of moment. And May's reaction to it is quite scary. I like that touch because she starts like taking the clothes outside and like throwing them away, and she says to Ethan, "It's because I don't want them to have any clothes. When they unfreeze, I don't. It's almost like they deserve to be exposed, sort of thing." So the drama comes of that when things are unfrozen. May obviously feels very loyal to her father, and she sort of reveals to her mother than she knows. I think the other thing is, yeah, just this idea of Jacob being a bad sort of boyfriend, because at one point Ethan like kind of, I don't know, he has one or two digs because he like says, because he sees the picture of May, and this is before they do the time freeze thing, but he says, you know, I'm no drawer, but I think you're way prettier than that. But you know, yeah, it's another interesting episode. Again, it's very well directed. It has like this really beautiful dreamlike quality, this angelic sort of touch, and I think thematically it does tie together quite nicely and build on the themes. But in the end, it's kind of this compromise sort of reality where this idealized, it's almost like great for the month they have, but ultimately, yeah, it's this idea of it being almost too perfect, so that it ruins any chance they've had. So it's this interesting idea where by trying to make things so perfect, they actually made it more complex, because obviously she could have broken it up off with Jacob, as difficult as that can be. She could have done that, and then her and Ethan could have been together, and who knows, it might not have worked out anyway, but you certainly wouldn't have had the complications you had later in the episode. So there you have it. That's the episode. Again, it is, as I said, pretty solid stuff. I wasn't quite as into it as the last episode, but I did enjoy it. There's some interesting stuff in there again. So that's episode 3 of Tales of the Loop, and I'll be back with episode 4 soon, because I'm quite enjoying this. Another new TV thing to look out for on this channel is the 3rd season of Killing Eve, which is coming up this week. I'm going to be reviewing that, and I know the BBC are putting it up on the iPlayer on Monday, so I'll be back soon with new reviews of Killing Eve. But I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.